It's my pleasure to welcome Ellen Ernst Kossek, the Basil S. Distinguished Professor of Management in the Mitchell E. Daniels Junior School of Business at Purdue University in the United States. Ellen's paper was recently published in Human Resources Management. The paper title is Advancing Work-Life Supportive Context for the Haves and Have-Nots, Integrating Supervisor Training with Work-Life Flexibility to Impact Exhaustion or Engagement. Ellen's co-authors were Caitlin Porter, Lindsay Rosokha, Kelly Wilson, Deborah Rupp, and Jared Law-Penrose. Ellen, welcome to the interview with me, with HRM.
Thanks, Jelena. Glad to be here.
I have several questions for you, and one of them is, why is your study important?
I think the study helps on sort of dig deeper into how to implement the policies you have better and think about how they might vary in effectiveness according to the job context. How can you really create work-life supportive context where people are able to have job and leader support, so the characteristics of their job and their leaders in a way that help people, and people have different needs depending on what they have to do in their job. Professors have to write papers or work at home and to have quiet time, but still be available. And people who are on site, say at a university, which is where our study was done, have to be there to work with students and clients. So this is a dilemma. How do we make the workplace work for everybody? We found that actually using an experiment, which is hard to do for policies, but we wanted to randomize training and then offer it eventually to everyone for supervisors to see if we could budge the organization culture. And I do think for HRM, we do need more studies where you at least have pre and post data for things like training and leadership development and try to randomize. There's certainly things we could always improve in every study, but in ours, what we found is if you were in a work group where a leader got training, and we developed the training based on family supportive supervisor behaviors and some work-life boundary management training that I've also worked on with other research for years, and your leader was trained, you were in a job with it interacted with what your job characteristics were. So if you were in a job with low boundary control over, being able to separate work and personal life, or in a job with lower schedule control, in some cases, it reduced emotional exhaustion for you if your leader was trained. And that to me is really important because it means there are a lot of people there that in terms of well-being, their own personal well-being, improving the job context by at least training leaders to be more, think about flexibility, be more supportive. That's a first step. And I think in the work for well-being, I think in the work-life literature, we kind of conflate support for the family role and support for the person's well-being. So I think that this was interesting to at least see you can help people feel emotionally better in terms of emotional exhaustion. And that to me is sort of a first step, bringing people up to a starting line, because if you're in an inflexible job without control, you're not even able to give time to your family. The other finding we found, though, was that for people that did have control over boundaries, if they were in a work group where their leader received training, and this is a year later, our findings, controlling for the level of boundary control at time one, people were able to report more engagement in their family role, giving more time to their family. Maybe they feel more free to go to children's activities, or able to not just quickly buy takeout on the way home, but invest in caring for their family. And so I think that's the other thing that is sort of interesting is you can have flexibility policies, but unless leaders are also trained and jobs have some ability to be flexible, people may or may not use that flexibility to support their family. And the third finding we found that was interesting was work engagement did not improve regardless of whether your leader was trained or your job design. And so I will talk more on future research, but a lot of companies, I think being flexible will make people more motivated on their job. And then maybe you have to do a third prong to motivate people.
So what are the theoretical implications of your research? Why does it matter for theory?
We drew on job demands resource theory, and people have demands from their jobs, and also you could think about in their family life, which often gets overlooked in those theories a little bit. And then you have resources, and resources could be having ability to control your job characteristics for boundaries and somewhat schedules, or having a leader that is least trained, because a lot of companies put in work-life policies and don't train people. So theoretically, we could look at this interaction as important for resources to be able to attenuate demands or buffer demands for people that have challenging situations. So let's think in the future about how to theoretically unpack how job demands are linked to creating work-life supportive contexts. And I think we've had these two theoretical streams of literature, job demands theory, and then sort of the work-life supportive contexts and leadership theories. I just also published a paper in Academy Management Annals that was in the top 10 most cited last year. And I'd like to see us really look at work-life support as a core job characteristic for organizations, and also something that's a core part of what leaders can do and include in leadership theories.
What do your results mean for HR policy or the practice of HR?
Well, first, once you offer a policy of work-life support, or at least think about how to create a work-life supportive organization, I think many companies forget about the job design matters. So let's also look at people's different job demands, and maybe we need to customize a bit more. Think about how to help people with different job constraints, because there are some jobs where you have to be on site, and yet you could hopefully go home and be able to disconnect, where people that are professors or people staff work, maybe they have trouble disconnecting. And so to me, the boundary control finding, which was helpful across all jobs, whether you have leaders trained or not, if your leader got training, that to me is a key finding. And also, I think just doing 45 minutes or so of training of leaders to think about how to be more supportive, and how to also in their own lives, we included some training about them taking care of themselves. Those are things that companies don't always do. They don't invest enough in training leaders to see this as part of their job. And I do think, going back to future research, if organizations could partner with scholars, we might be able to unpack better, what the effectiveness of such training. A lot of times our findings are interactions that these training and the job context may vary depending on the person. So it's not always a main effect. And yet still just doing these across the board interventions of looking at what we can do to at least improve people's lives, depending on their job, is so important. We have these policies, or we give lip service, performative lip service to work life in many organizations today. Just some attention to having leaders think about this is important. And I hope in the future we can unpack more how the training actually works, and what is actually motivating in leaders. Because again, we did not find a main effect. We found these interaction effects for offering the training.
Wow. Thank you very much for that. And thank you again for coming to the interview. And I hope to speak to you again in the future about some similar or different topic. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed the interview.